Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jonathan and I look at tech companies for investors. And today I'm going to have a look at how tech companies hide their monopolies. Because if a tech company is valued pretty much over 500 billion, it either has to own a market or be the substantial player in a market. The example I'm going to use today is Google, because Google, well, it owns the search market. And I'm going to explain how it hides the fact that it owns the search market, and I'm also going to explain how it hasn't been taken apart as a monopoly yet. Google owns 92.5% of the global search market, which doesn't really leave a lot for other companies. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best search engine out there, but it does have the most resources. It pays Apple over 12 billion a year to be the default search engine on iPhones. It doesn't even have to pay to be the default search engine on Android because it owns Android. So there's no denying that it does have a monopoly in search. But how does it hide this monopoly? Why hasn't it been taken apart yet? And these tactics that I'm going to explain how it's hidden it so far, these relate not just to Google, but pretty much all tech companies that have a monopoly in a particular market. Now, the first thing that I'm actually going to have a look at is their 10K form. This is a form that they file every year with the SEC that looks at the financial performance of the company. It's a very comprehensive form and there's a lot of information in it that might not actually be necessary for this video, but if you do want to have a look, I will link it down below. I just want you to kind of focus on kind of the recurring theme of this document. So this is Alphabet Inc., which is the parent company of Google's 10Q form, which is a document that they actually give to a government body. And what you'll find in this document is the fact that they use certain words quite continuously throughout. They really like to emphasize how competitive they are and how much competition they have. And you can see this by the fact that the word compete is used 9 times, the word competitive is used 12 times, and the word competition is used 22 times. Now, some of these references are to do with the fact that they are facing competition lawsuits against them, that they are being kind of found out as a monopoly. But it's very unlikely that they're going to be taken apart as a monopoly. Because if they can be seen as competitive, then they're not a monopoly. And a really good way for them to be seen as competitive is to expand into other markets and offer different services. Because A, this allows them to make more money, but it also allows them to compete and not necessarily be the biggest competitor in another market. Here you can see all of the products that Google offers. Now, it's not just a search engine, it's got like lots of different products. And it doesn't actually have to be the best with all of these things. It just has to compete in something other than search. And an example of that would be its new cloud services. It's competing against companies like AWS, so Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure. These are the big players in that industry, and Google's just starting to get into it. Now, it doesn't necessarily want to become the dominant player in that industry either. And then you've got things like its wearable devices. So you've got the watches and smartwatches, and then just mobile phones. That's tapping into Apple's market share. Now, being in these markets isn't the only thing that Google gets out of it. It still has the potential to make quite a lot of money in these markets. But its main goal and main priority is keeping attention away from itself so that it can maintain its position as the dominant player in search and online advertising. Now, the best way for me to show you this is to actually have a look at their financial statements. Now, I'll look at the most recent one, which was Q3 of 2020. They are going to be releasing their Q4 for 2020 in just a few days, which I will do another video on to actually have a look at it. But let's actually have a look at their last quarter. Here we have their revenue in the 9 months leading up to the end of 2019, so September 30th, 2019, and September 30th, 2020. Now, if you actually have a look at the very top column, or top row, sorry, you will see that in 2019, they made, from their Google search, 70.9 billion in revenue. So if you look at the very top, you will see that this revenue is in millions. And in 2020, they made 72.1 billion from their Google search. Now, their total revenue, if you look at the very bottom, for 2019, or the 9 months of 2019, was 115.7 billion. And if you have a look at the fifth row down, Google advertising, you will see that their 9 months ending on September 30th for Google advertising, they made 96.8 billion. So from that 115 billion, 96.8 of it came from Google advertising. And in 2020, out of the 125 billion, well, it's 125.6 billion, they made 100.7 billion of that from their Google advertising. So Google are an advertising company, and that's where most of their revenue is coming from. Now, they are moving into other things, and they did see quite an increase in revenue from their Google Cloud and other offers, but they are at core an advertising company, and they can only maintain numbers like that through being a monopoly and being the main player in that industry. Google is just one example of these kind of tech monopolies. You have Amazon, which is a monopoly when it comes to e-commerce. You have Apple, which is a monopoly when it comes to its app store and products. You have Facebook, which is a monopoly when it comes to social media. Now, if you're an investor, then being invested in these companies is a good thing because they can pretty much guarantee over a long period of time quite consistent profits because they control the market. But if you're a consumer, obviously monopolies aren't really great because they control the market, so they control the prices you pay and they can bump it up if they want to. Or if you're a competitor in these markets, they can just undercut all competition and make it almost impossible for other competitors to survive. But if you want a really good long-term investment, it's good to find a monopoly that hides the fact that it's a monopoly because they can offer pretty consistent returns year on year. If you can do that, you have the potential to make quite a lot of money. But that brings us to the end of this video. I really do hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and if you did like the video, if you wouldn't mind giving a like for me. I will see you next time. Have a good day. Goodbye.